we move on to the main discussion points, I want to take you also back again, that moment where you were pitching on Shark Tank, and the moment you got a deal which didn't align, you pivoted and you said no. Think about this. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to be in front of the sharks. Few get opportunities and deals. You got all of these, but you said no. Looking back, what was going on in your mind? And also looking back, do you regret for saying no?
Yeah, so we were actually kind of a claim to fame. We were on the very first episode of the very first season of Shark Tank. So um, we didn't know the Sharks were when we went into it, do the pitch. We actually didn't know that this show would become a huge success and they would go on to become really television celebrities for the most part. And so we went on to pitch our business and to ask for some investment. And we got an offer from Robert Herjavec. He made an offer. But at the time, once that offer was kind of put in front of us, he was asking, I think, for 10% of the business of College H.U.N.K.S, and he was going to give us $250,000. So it was a fair offer given where we were in our business at that time. It was a lot of money, especially back then for us. And I think at that time, something in the pit of our stomach said we shouldn't give up equity. We don't need another partner. And so, they don't give you a lot of time to make a decision because they're filming in a television studio. So it's you're moving quickly, and it felt like I was in a boxing match because I was getting yelled at by Mr. Wonderful. And so we had to make a snap decision, and ultimately I think it was the right decision. You could always question if you would have done it differently. Maybe if we had gone in a later season and knew who the Sharks were, we might have been more eager to take a deal with them because we, would have known what kind of sort of media platform they had built for themselves by that point. But when we went on the show, it was, like I said, episode 1, season 1. So we was almost like going into it completely blind. And so I really can't regret the decision we made. And ultimately, our business is probably worth 100 times what that valuation was back then. And so it would have been financially not a great decision unless, maybe they would have made it worth 1,000 times, but I don't think so.
Yeah, two things I like from the story that you shared. The first one is the decision to say that, you know what, down in our gut, we have to follow our gut and we don't want to give equity. Sometimes when I talk to startups, they rush giving equity because they are desperate in getting capital. And I always encourage them, try everything possible first to find money through debt or maybe from friends, colleagues, and also build system. Have your team try everything by your own resources before you go out to give equity, because if you want to take it public down the road, you need more equity. And your decision at that time, without even knowing the details to make that smart decision, shows the importance of startups to think twice. And of course, I like the idea that you said you didn't know. If you chose that path, maybe it's a different story. Maybe you may not be here, or maybe 10 times, 100 times. But in life, we cannot really regret looking back and say, I should have chosen that path. You didn't know whether that would have worked or not.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times, that's how I try to think about it. I use a lot of analogies with sports, right? You learn from what feels like a failure or feels like a mistake.
Yeah.
And you celebrate the victories, but you don't get too, hung up on them. And you want to be just sort of focus on the next step in front of you. And I think, to your point, when some things happen, especially when they're out of your control, it's very easy to get narrow focused and worried about what that means. But long term, which is really how you should be thinking about when you're in business, it's a long journey. We don't know. Good news, bad news, we don't know what the ultimate outcome will be. And actually, another example I'll share is when we started our business, when we started franchising our business, was right around 2008, 2009. And so if you were going to pick a time in history to start franchising a home service business, that was right as the housing market was crashing. And so it was like all of a sudden the wind was right in our face. And again, at the time I was, frustrated. Oh, this economy, this housing market, it's impacting our business. But I think it's actually, I really should say, I know it's one of the best things that had happened to us, because we were able to A, survive it, B, become more resilient. It really exercised our grittiness, our resourcefulness, and we had to figure it out. And I think if you can figure it out when there's headwinds,
Yep.
you can really celebrate and win when the wind is at your backs. But I think a lot of people get sort of lulled into a false sense of invincibility when everybody's winning. And all of a sudden, when the wind changes, I think it was Warren Buffett said, when the tide goes out, you see who's been swimming naked. And so
Yes.
you've got to have that foundation. You got to keep your covers on.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, the idea that having this kind of business when the home industry crashed is, if you think about it, that was bad luck. But I love your attitude and mentality, which is don't time the market. Just whenever you have an idea, just go out. Even if it becomes bad, like you did, you learn, you become resilient. And if you succeeded in that kind of bad market, you can imagine how much you can thrive in better market, and it made you really very, very resilient, and I'm glad you survived that.